Hey, what's going on? Chances are you are probably going to take your Naplex soon or your CPJE. Well, in this video, I actually talked with Millennial Mayday. She is famous for her Why I Regret Becoming a Pharmacist blog that she wrote a few months back. But we actually talk about her experience doing the Naplex and CPJE and all that. So even though if you're not planning to get licensed in California, she gives some great tips on how to study for a Naplex and help you get licensed as a pharmacist. If you really like this episode, make sure to watch this whole interview. Let's go.
I want to hit on this because I know by the time I publish this, people are going to be start thinking about the Naplex or the CPJE and stuff, and they probably have tons of questions about how to study for this. Tell
hmm
me about your experience. Tell me about your experience about studying for Naplex.
So Naplex was, I think I graduated around May. So I took about 2 months of studying for the Naplex before I took the test,
Mhm.
and I I was definitely very stressed. Um I was actually under pressure from my company that I had been a grad intern at
Yeah,
to get licensed as soon as possible.
yeah.
So while I was working as a grad intern, I was scheduled like 4 days a week. I was also having to study for the
Mhm.
Naplex to meet my deadline.
Yeah.
So I was very stressed. The book that I use is rxprep, and that's what I would recommend honestly to everyone. I barely even looked at my notes from school, honestly,
Yeah.
just because
I looked at
it's all
this.
over the place. I was, by the time I was studying for the Naplex, I had moved back home, and I I didn't even, I had like boxes of school materials that I just threw away because there's no way like I was gonna go through that and find anything useful. So I threw that away. I started from scratch with the RX prep,
Mm.
and I just studied um like a couple of hours every day. Obviously I'm a procrastinator, so I tried blocking off times to study, but that just wouldn't happen. I would honestly, if I could go back in time, I would just tell myself like, just be realistic about how many hours you're going to be able to study,
Yeah.
because I would literally turn down, ha- hangouts and like just going out because I was telling them and telling myself that I was going to study, and that just didn't happen. So
Yeah, and I think like looking back at that too, like I mean, obviously hindsight's always 2020, but I feel like and it happens in pharmacy school. Pharmacy school too as well when people are studying for exams and stuff. You notice that you turn down a lot of life events and you look back at certain things like, fuck, I could have had this experience or I could have had that experience. That's great advice. I really like it. So you're studying multiple times a day, you're doing RX prep. Do you do the RX prep questions too and stuff?
I did. So I
Yeah.
bought the book that came with the questions and the videos. I
Yeah.
barely touched the videos at all just because um it took a long time to go through the videos because
Yeah.
reading is just faster. But for harder chapters, I think, what were the harder ones, like the oncology chapters, HIV
Mhm.
chapters, I went through the videos on those.
Yeah.
But the other ones I just kind of memorized from our prep book.
Yeah, and how about we like for a second? I know time was of the essence during that time because you're getting pressure from like your company to finish your exam as soon as possible and whatnot. Tell me about like the rough time frame that you had to study for these exams.
So roughly I moved back home and started, my grad internship, and I had 2 months to study and take both tests. So I'm based in California, so I took the CPJ,
Yeah.
um and those two, I think I took about like a week or 2 weeks apart.
Yeah.
um and honestly, the studying with the MPJE, I do have some friends that took the MPJE, and it is more law based. The California ones is more clinical based, and personally I think a lot of
California
people fail
law
it.
law exam. Like
Exactly.
quotations.
It is. I think they probably have like 10 questions at most for law, and everything else is clinical. So I wanted to take them very closely together,
Yeah.
just because I knew the clinical stuff would come in handy for the CPJE as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, those I studied for both of those hand in hand about 2 months on those. But I was stressed, and I think if I had more leeway, I would probably take it in like 3 months after graduation.
Yeah, but don't you get like isn't that the especially in California, there's something like with the QA period and stuff like
But
man,
yes, that's the
yeah,
worst.
that's the worst because then you have to wait like until I don't know how long, but it takes like freaking you can wait months waiting to get
Yeah,
licensed, and especially if you're in financial like um you're in a financial situation where you have to start paying off your loans a lot quicker and stuff, and that could be a killer for a lot of people, man.
it's true. Yeah, I was constantly checking the Facebook page
Yeah.
where people I was at the point where people were predicting which when you take the test, what days the QA were going to be finished, whatever. I mean, I don't know how how right it was, but I was totally checking that out on like a daily basis.
Dang, dang, that's crazy. So, yeah, so you had about 2 months to take these exams. And during this time, I'm sure, did you have to work at all as well?
Yeah, I was working as a grad intern, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way because I think that was the period where I it hit me. I was, like I'm a grad intern right now, but in a couple of months I'm going to be the pharmacist. This is all the knowledge that I'm going to know from pharmacy school I have now. The only thing that's going to change between me being able to ask my pharmacist a question versus 2 months later when I'm a pharmacist and I have to be the one answering these questions is just a paper, a license paper. And
Yeah.
that really hit me that it's a lot of responsibility, and sometimes you really just have to go with your personal judgment because pharmacy is not black and white. And I think that's the biggest learning lesson I've had, you know, to learn from actually being at work and working at retail pharmacy.
Yeah, it's very gray area, man. It's a very gray area. So yeah, that's really great. Um, there's something else I want. Oh yeah, so tell me about your so like okay, so roughly how many hours were you working a week?
I was working a lot. I was working maybe like I think 4 days, 3 to 4 days. I think 30 to I would say like around 30 to 32 hours a week.
30 to 32 hours. Yeah, I'm just trying to like kind of paint a picture for like the listeners out here who are about to take
Mm-hmm.
their exam and like
Mm-hmm.
to really be aware of how much time do you actually have to spend
Mm-hmm.
studying for the Naplex. I mean like how much time did you like when you were trying to allocate, right? How much time did you allocate out?
I was being, I was trying to be too ambitious. On the weekends, I would like put myself to study for like 10 hours a day.
Oh
Like that
God.
just isn't possible. I would say if I was recommending this to someone now,
Yeah.
um, and you had to work as a grad intern as well, just do every night. I would say the biggest thing is don't skip days. Just try if you can to just even go through like an hour every night
Yeah.
instead of just trying to do everything all at once in one day, because you can't, your brain just, it doesn't work that way. You can't just study for 10 hours straight.
Yeah,
So
definitely not. One bite at a
yeah,
time.
so
I love it.
at least, yeah, at least an hour a day would be nice. And then just to have for every day, but try if you can 2 to 4 hours a day is what I would really really recommend. But yeah, I think that's how much I was studying. I was, in the beginning I was maybe like doing average like 7 hours a week because I was procrastinating towards the end. I was definitely doing that, those 10-hour days at the end.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody sort of kind of like panics and like, oh shit, it's right around the corner. I need a cram. I get it. And something that I definitely want to emphasize too, like for a lot of listeners, is just like, dude, you've already if you went to pharmacy school, you should already have learned this shit once. It's not like you're studying like you're just like doing it as kind of like a refresher. You know what I mean? Like we've all passed pharmacy school. That was pharmacy school's job to kind of teach us and make sure that we go through a program that we know all this stuff. So at the end of the day, this is pretty much all at the back of our head. Yeah, maybe we don't know the exact details, but in general, we have a good feel of the content already. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to remember that, especially when going into the test. I try to like give myself a pep talk before I go
Yeah.
into the test. Just, and I said literally the same thing that you just said.
Yeah.
And I think everyone just has to remember that they know much more than what they really think. It's it's all there. You just don't know that it's all there, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and let me ask you this too. Like how hard was your let's start off with the Naplex first, right? How hard was your Naplex, man?
I I mean, I came out of the test thinking I failed, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are gonna feel that way. I don't know. I didn't know anyone that literally came out of the Naplex saying I passed. Everyone,
Yeah,
every one
because
of my friends came out and they were like, I failed. I failed, and then they passed. Um,
yeah. Because a lot
yeah.
of people, I know that they changed up the exam and the difficulty of the exam. Because when I became licensed, no one freaking failed at all. Like
Really,
very rarely.
I think
Very-
my year, I graduated in 2017.
Yeah,
I think my year was actually the first year they started doing the 6-hour exam. I don't,
yeah.
do you know how long yours was?
Uh, dude, it wasn't 6 hours. I'll tell you that. They gave you like I think I'm ballparking here, probably like about 3 hours, and I remember finishing it in like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
That only means two things, like either the computer shuts off and you failed, or the computer shuts off because like you did really well. So like it was like
You killed it.
it's up in the air, man. Yeah, well, I got licensed, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
But it's six.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about the kind of like the format of the Naplex nowadays.
Um, yeah, so format wise, oh my goodness. I'm trying to remember back. So yeah, so one of the hardest part about the Netflix is that they have what's called like the
K
I'm
type.
K type. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm remembering this right. It's either the Netflix or the CPJ, but I'm pretty sure it's Netflix. Um,
CPJE, I think, still has K type. I looked at
K
the
type
sample
too.
questions recently. So
I'm going. I just as a disclaimer, I don't know if this is the Netflix or the CPJ. So, but the K type questions were the hardest. Those were the ones that I had the most issues with.
yeah.
The Netflix, I think what people really need to prepare for is just studying, or I mean taking the test for a long period of time, because I know for myself personally, I get worn out. I'll do really well like in the first hour and my brain is functioning, but after the second third hour of taking a test, you're just worn out. So I would say definitely do those practice exams and do them in one sitting, and make sure you're prepared to take a long test.
Mm,
um because brain stamina is a thing. I think you really need that for taking the Naplex.
great advice. Great advice. So it's a 6 hour. Oh man. Do they give you like was there any sort of break in the middle, or is it just like it's straight?
They
Like
do, yes. So they give you a break, and I think it's 15 minutes, but it's not, they won't actually time you. Like you have to time yourself, because if you actually want to take like 20 minutes, a little bit more, like you're okay. You're losing the time after the 15 minutes,
yeah.
but you're allowed to actually take more than what they allocate, which is 15 minutes.
Okay.
And you're just not allowed to leave the building. They give you a locker where you can put your food. The only place you can go kind of outside would be the restroom.
Damn, this sounds like
um,
prison, man.
yeah, exactly, it is, it's a total prison.
Yeah. Don't set up your pill mill, guys. This is what happens. But yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha. And how's your I mean, I think that's pretty much it for Naplex part. By the way, how was your CPJE? I just looked up let me share my screen really quick. But I actually looked up the CPJE, and it looks like they have K-type questions for sure.
Okay, Jen.
Yeah. Oh my God, I hate those. And know what I hate about K-type questions? It's like they're so unrealistic to real life, man. Like uh, no one ever asks you a K-type question in real life, man. So funny.
No, that's so true.
Yeah. Tell me about your CPJE though. Tell me about that
Yeah.
experience.
CPJE, it was definitely, I think it's a little bit more stressful than the Naplex, just
Yeah.
because it's not as many questions. So you can't get as many wrong. I think the one thing that I did like about the Naplex is that with so many questions, you do have a little bit of leeway. If you're really good at one area but not so good in another,
Mm,
you can still kind of pass. But
mm.
with the CPJE, you, it's kind of, honestly, I hate to say this, but it's luck at some point too. There are some things that you're not going to know, and there are some things that you're just luckily randomly studied and you actually remembered.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and they'll test you on random things, the CPJE. So definitely I would say if you're studying from anything from rxprep or anything else, um, don't just read the highlighted materials, don't just read the bolded materials, read everything at least once, so that if somehow in the back of your mind you still have that little info, and you never know, you might need it for the CPJ because they ask very random questions, they ask a lot of brand name questions.
Yeah.
um, and it's not as many questions, so you do want to make sure that you think out all these questions right, just because you don't have as many options to get questions wrong.
Yeah. Gotcha. What do you think was harder, the CPJE or Naplex? Do you remember?
Personally, for me, I thought the Naplex was harder. I
Mm.
think it's because I went with the Naplex first. So by the time the CPJE came, I was already expecting the worst because I came out of the Naplex feeling like I failed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So guys, chances are if you made it here, then you should probably watch the full interview right here. I'm waiting. Let's do it. All right. Bye, guys.